Morning, Vix. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thanks, Jimmy. Lovely to see you.
Yeah, great to see you too. Just for everybody watching, it's my great pleasure to have Vicky Goldring with us this morning, and Vicky's one of our speakers for House Party at Home, and we're just going to learn a little bit about her as an introduction this morning for her talk this evening. So, Vix, could you just start by just introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about yourself and your family?
Sure. So I'm Vix. I'm married to Mark. We have three children, Zach and Noah and Jesse, and they are sort of 14 and 13 and 9. I often forget their ages. We find ourselves living in Hastings, and I say that because we've been rather nomadic over the last few years. We're in Cambridge for a big chunk of time, and then we lived in Spain for a couple of years in Seville. And by sort of divine appointment last summer, we found ourselves moving down to Hastings. So we've been here since September and just finding our feet. Children are settled in school. Mark and I are not quite sure what we're doing, but we're spreading our wings and seeing what comes next.
Brilliant. So, what would you normally be doing at this time of year were it not for lockdown? Give us an insight into that.
Yeah, so normally Mark and I are teachers by profession, so we would ordinarily be finishing a term and gearing up for Framlingham, which happens to be the summer house party that we've been involved in for the last 10 years. So this time of year would be super busy, just putting the last finishing touches to all of that. So it feels very strange this summer not to be finalizing lists and speaking to guests and allocating rooms. So that's what would normally be happening now.
Yeah, busy time of year normally.
Really busy.
And it's such a shame the house parties aren't happening, but great that we can engage with people in this way. Really looking forward to what we're going to be hearing from you later today as part of House Party at Home. So tell us a little bit about. So all our speakers have had some involvement with the Stewards Trust. Stewards Trust has been part of their faith journey along the way, and we would love to hear what your kind of story is in terms of involvement with the Stewards Trust.
Yeah, it started a long time ago for me. So having moved from South Africa as a family when I was 11, pretty much the first thing we did that summer was to go on a Stewards Trust house party. And so from a big family, but some of us in the family made really amazing connections immediately. And so from then, every summer, every Easter, whenever we could, went to Stewards Trust house parties. My parents ended up leading one of them, and so got to know the insides of what it was to run a party. Administrated for a bit, ended up hosting a summer house party with my husband, and yeah, so really since the first taste of a Stewards Trust house party, I've done everything that I can to be in that family.
Cool. And what's sort of kept you coming back year after year? What's kept your involvement, your engagement?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I would say the first thing that comes to mind is friendship. So I made really good friends immediately, and we never, none of us lived in the same area. We didn't go to the same school or anything like that, but that connection year after year was really important to me in particular. But it's just an incredible opportunity. I found every house party, it's an opportunity just to pause what would ordinarily be going on in life and to engage with God in a different way, maybe free of distraction that would normally be happening at home, just to be reinvigorated. And yeah.
So cool. Thank you. That's brilliant. A couple of questions that I've asked to all our speakers. First one piece of wisdom that you've gleaned during lockdown that you might be able to share with us.
I think anyone who's heard me speak over the last few years, I've had this longing for rhythm, balance. They're sort of words that have become really important to me, simplicity, and I've talked about them, but have found that my life has just been too full to really engage with the cost or really what it would take to really work out what rhythm means in life. And I think forced change, which lockdown has been, has enabled me to really get to grips with what would it look like to find rhythm and balance and slowness and pattern in my ordinary life that is sustainable. So yes, space. The wisdom would be that making space for God, he totally fills it and knows the longing. So that longing has always been there, and I feel like he's completely fulfilled that longing in me because space has been there for him.
Brilliant. And my other sort of question linked to lockdown and coronavirus is, if you had a hope for sort of the world as it gets back to normal, in inverted commas, whatever normal is, what would your hope be for sort of a post-lockdown, post-coronas world?
I guess the first thing would be, I don't want to go back, really not to return, but to embrace newness. I think words have become really important to me at this time, and I hold on to reimagine rather than return. I went for a run the other morning with Mark, and it was really funny. I saw two trucks, one after the other, and on the side of one of the trucks, it said change direction. It was an Asda truck, actually. And then on the next truck...
Other supermarkets are available?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why. Sorry, yes. The other one said revival, but next to it in smaller word was systems. So the kind of revival of systems and change direction. And I think for me, the longing is that there would be systematic change. I've heard so many people say this has been an opportunity. We've been forced to do our business differently, or we've been forced to embrace things that we planned for ages, and now suddenly we find ourselves doing them. And I think, wouldn't it be cool if we could be brave enough or creative enough to actually do those things anyway? So
brilliant. That's
my longing.
Brilliant. That is interesting. That came up in another one of these conversations, actually. So very interesting. Really? Yeah. Okay, so finally, just give us a little bit of a taster for what you're going to be speaking about this evening. Okay.
Do you want to know the passage?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so this is a passage that has, again, like God has spoken to me. I've been looking at old diaries as part of lockdown, just a lot of clearing out and reading. And it's amazing how often this passage has been sort of brought to me over the years. And it's Isaiah 30. And in it, we see God's people in exile, obviously, in a time of great stress. They're in an unfamiliar environment. Their future's uncertain. Feels similar to what we've been experiencing recently. And we find themselves doing what I know I do in that situation, which is to try and look for security and protection. How can I make myself feel safer? And so they start to build a wall. And what's interesting is the things that they look for, the things that they're really challenged on, are making plans that are not God's plans and looking for protection in the wrong place. And it's kind of reference to Pharaoh and productivity and busyness. And so they're things that I know for sure God's been challenging me on. And in the passage, we see that the wall falls down. So that what do we do when our kind of search for security and protection shatters? And God very gently and wonderfully shows them that there is actually a different way. There's a different way to live. So let's see.
Don't tell us anything more, otherwise you'll have done the whole talk. That's brilliant, Vix. I just want to say thank you, massive thank you for all you've done for Stewards Trust as a chief host for Framlingham. Massive thank you for being involved with Houseparty at Home, and really looking forward to what you've got to say this evening. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Cool. Take care.